But I could read your mind cause you're weak in the knees like SWV, trying to get a title like Woo Killer B.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Bad 90s Music. I am the Jake Wheel. I am the self-proclaimed 90s music expert. Since nobody else is bothering to take up the mantle, I guess I'm the one that has to do it. I was going to start off talking about this group by saying that there aren't really any groups like SWV around anymore, but the more I thought about it, the more it started to occur to me that there really aren't groups in general anymore. The trajectory of pop music has been more towards individuals over the years, at least compared to how it was when I was growing up. I feel like, especially of genres like R&B and rap, were more dominated by groups, and I talked about this a little bit in the Boys and Men video about how, there were just so many of these interchangeable singing groups, but that was just the way that it was. No one really seemed to question it. In a way, I can sort of understand why the industry would want to move away from having a group of artists to their roster as opposed to having just an individual artist. Who is the breakout star of this group? Every time some group gets big, it's like, okay, who's going to be the Harry Styles? Who's going to be the Timberlake? Who's going to be the Beyonce? Because of that mentality, we reach this point where it's not really profitable, it's not really tenable to be in a group anymore, except as a stepping stone to some more personal fame, I guess. So SWV were a group from New York City. Two of their members are from the Bronx, Coco and Lily, and then one of their members was from Brooklyn. Her name was Taj. They were actually singing gospel in the 80s. They were a gospel singing group. They were inspired to move to R&B when they saw a performance of Shanice when she was 12 years old on Star Search. They decided to go for it as a R&B group or as a mainstream pop music act. They were all very young at the time. They were three young women in their early 20s. The name SWV, by the way, stands for Sisters with Voices. By the way, the naming convention blank with blank is probably the most underrated one in my opinion. When I was a kid, I used to think that they were sisters because I was very young, and I wasn't aware yet that the black culture used that kind of parlance or that kind of terminology to refer to each other as brothers or as sisters. Their first album was called It's About Time, and it was released on RCA Records in 1992. And it included this song. This ended up being their biggest hit. I'm pretty sure it went to #1, and it was pretty much everywhere. The song's called Weak.
I get so weak in the knees, I can hardly speak, I lose all control.
So this is very early 90s. This is when New Jack Swing was actually still really big. SWV, I think, were lumped in with the New Jack Swing when they first came out, but they never seemed to fit into that category for me. To me, this is a little too chill and a little too pop-oriented to fit in with New Jack Swing. To me, the song Weak sort of signifies the moment when R&B love ballads turned into full-on slow jams, and then that became what they were. It seemed like the focus of the songs really shifted from trying to convey really powerful, really strong romantic feelings, kind of in the vein of something like Whitney Houston's I Will Always Love You, her version of it, and it moved on to being more about the soul behind these emotions. Kind of a chilled out, smooth, relaxed sort of vibe that kind of carried throughout the entire decade. For me, the distinction between an R&B ballad versus an R&B slow jam is think about the differences between Aretha's version of You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman versus Marvin Gaye's Let's Get It On. That's a slow jam. Aretha's song is more of a love ballad. The slow jams were intended to be more bass heavy. They were intended to sound really good, rolling down the street, blasting it out of your car. You could still sort of dance to them a little bit if you just move as slowly as possible. If I had to pick something about this song that made it stand out, I would say the vocals in the chorus. With the traditional R&B love ballad, you would hear kind of a wailing type of chorus, kind of a soaring, like high notes, heavy on a lot of melisma and vibrato in the chorus, but that's not how this chorus unfolds at all. Listen to it. So instead, it's got a lot of quick syllables and a lot of sort of halfway syncopated vocal rhythm patterns. So it's not really a melodic hook so much as it is a rhythmic hook, and that's what made it kind of stick into your head. It's kind of like a bunch of unfinished lines. It's like each line bleeds straight over into the next until the chorus resolves itself in the end with that longer held note with the group all singing together. Coco was generally the lead singer. She had a very distinctive voice. You can hear it in all of SWV's songs. She sang the lead, so she was perceived as being the leader of the group. So this is where rap, I feel like, started to have a more subtle influence on the R&B music at the time. Because rap and R&B started as completely separate genres. Nobody even started really crossing them over until pretty much the early 90s, around this time. And from then on, it became kind of intertwined to the point where it was one and the same. Nowadays, you can't even tell the difference between R&B and rap. At least I can't. I feel like every rapper that I hear about that is supposed to be really big and popular and famous just sounds like another R&B singer to me. This is sort of where that all began. And it's not so much aping the beats of hip-hop or the style or the attitude or the swagger of it, so much as it is kind of incorporating a few of the rhythmic elements to it and sort of mixing them in and creating something new out of it. You know, and this always did sound like a very throwbackish song to me anyway, but updated with more of a hip-hop sort of influence to it, in very subtle ways. That was their biggest hit. They released a lot of other tracks from this album as singles. I'm going to play you this one. You might recognize it. This one might seem a little familiar to you. This song is called Right Here. Yeah, that's Michael. This song appeared on the Free Willy soundtrack. This is a remix of the song Right Here from their album It's About Time. It's remixed by Teddy Riley, who's the guy from Blackstreet. He basically built this sample around the song Human Nature by Michael Jackson, and he put SWV's vocals over it and created something great. This is what it sounded like. I think the kid from Free Willy is playing the keyboards in this video. I didn't know he could do that. SWV's remix game actually was very strong most of the time. This is a remix they did of a song they had called You're the One. It's called the You're the One All-Star remix. So this remix came out in 1996. It's from their second album, New Beginnings. You can already hear much more hip-hop influence in the production. There's rapping on the track.
Shape you into my queen just to hold you, but won't expose you. Keep it DL like R. Kelly with Smooth the Hustler message.
I'm going a little out of order here, but this next song is from the Above the Rim soundtrack, and it's called Anything. This song features Wu-Tang Clan. This is from 1994. So you can hear they were very easily able to transition into the turn that R&B took into incorporating more rap influences into their sound. You know, they went from doing gospel music to doing this kind of stuff within 10 years. I think that's pretty impressive evolution. Here's Method Man. And this next song is from SWV's third album. It's called Release Some Tension. It was released in 1997. This track is produced by Timbaland and Missy Elliott. You can kind of hear the entire evolution of the R&B genre through SWV's music if you listen to it from the first single Week all the way up until towards the end of the 90s when they released this album. You can hear the music was kind of getting a little darker, a little more minor key, but it was also getting a little funkier. And it was getting more diverse, too. This really shows how much they were able to cross over in a short period of time.
Can we get kinky tonight? I got so many things on my mind.
Yeah, in 1999, Coco released her solo album debut, and since this is still within the 90s, I'm going to see if I can find anything by Coco from her first album. Oh, the album is called Hot Coco. This song is called Sunshine. This is some 99 stuff, alright. You know, this isn't bad. I don't remember it at all, but I probably would have liked it if I'd heard it back then. Coco's vocal style seems to have changed too. I don't know what changed about it. She's singing a little more strongly, I guess, than she used to. Not as laid back.
Every way is the right way, 'cause your love is so strong.
Kind of trying to project those really strong R&B vocals, kind of the opposite to what they were doing together as a group. Yeah, so I guess it was just a totally different market for music. The group did eventually reform in about 2011. They did get back together and started performing together as a group again. I heard they actually had a reality show about them. You know, I do think that groups should make a comeback. It's probably not as profitable for the record labels and the management to have to promote an entire group as opposed to a single person. I think that the popularity and the fame of a lot of these artists is a lot more social media driven than it used to be, and it's hard to promote a group through social media. I mean, you have to make it look like they sort of do everything together, which is not how people really are. They all have to have their own lives. It's hard to connect with a group through social media, I guess is what I'm saying. So until next time, this is Jake Rio coming at you from the past, and I'll see you sometime in the future.